Chag Sameach! Today on Kitschy Cookery we're making potato latkes. It's Hanukkah season and we are very excited. And today we are going to be focusing on something to make for the holidays. Tonight is actually the 6th night of Hanukkah. To start off, I am going to show you what I have in the bowl. I have already shredded my potatoes and drained them. And what you see here is just a little bit of the potato starch that we're going to keep to help hold the latkes together. So what I'm going to do is take the potatoes that I shredded and I'm going to put them back in the bowl like so, making a big mess at the same time. What's cooking if you can't make a mess, right? And then in the food processor, I have some grated onion that I also did earlier. Take that out, put this in the sink. Sorry, I'm out of shot. And
you were in the shot the whole time.
Okay. I don't need one of those.
The portion where she runs around the kitchen.
Yeah, pretty much. And then I'm just going to take this and put my onion in also. This is a very simple recipe. We will put a link to where you can find it in our video comments later on. This is matzah meal that I made out of matzah crackers. That's about 2 tablespoons of that. And then I have a teaspoon of kosher salt and about 1/8 to 1/4 of a teaspoon of black pepper.
So you're telling me is it's kosher?
It is kosher.
The whole thing?
It is.
I don't know those potatoes though. I don't know where those potatoes are from.
I'll put my egg in, and because I like to get in and messy, I'm just going to do this by hand. I'm just going to kind of mix it all together. Pulling up the potato starch too, because that's going to help hold the latkes together. And I don't care if I have a little bit of messy egg on my hand. I'm used to it. One of the great pleasures in life is to just get your hands into something and dig in and mix it all around. Best tools on the planet. Make sure you're pulling all of that potato starch up and in, and make sure you get them all very well mixed.
I'd say Rox would disagree with that. I think maybe second best.
Maybe. So I'm just going to keep mixing until I'm pretty sure that it's uniformly mixed. Because once we put them in the pan, we don't want to mess with them too much. We're just going to kind of form them into cakes and fry them. Now what I've got over in my black iron skillet is about a cup of peanut oil. And normally I would probably put a little bit of schmaltz, which is chicken fat, in the oil as well. But I did not remember to make the schmaltz. So we're going to go exclusively with peanut oil today. Which is okay. The schmaltz adds a little bit more flavor to it. But these are going to have plenty of flavor and they're going to be really good. So let me go ahead and we're going to move over to the stove. And I'm going to check my oil. I'm not even going to worry about washing my hands, to be honest, because... So I'm going to take about 1/4 cup maybe of the mixture. And I'm going to try doing it a couple different ways. Like I've read that one way you can do it is to put it on a flat spatula and kind of make it into a patty like that. And to me, I mean, that seems a bit like an extra step, but I want to try that one. So we'll go ahead and slide that in. And your oil should be at about 350. I already tested the oil, and so I know that it's right at temperature. While that's starting to cook, I'm going to take another 1/4 cup and I'm going to try doing this in my hand instead of on a spatula. Because that seems like an extra step to me, and I'm all about not doing extra steps if I can help it. And then just putting it in the oil. You know, I actually think that works pretty well. So I'm going to keep doing it with my hands. I'm going to move the spatula out of the way in just a second.
Do you think the spatula is just sort of idiot-proof?
Well, I think it's probably to keep people from burning themselves. If you're not experienced with oil, I would certainly say go ahead and use the spatula, because that way you can just slide it off. You don't have to get your hands near the oil. Generally speaking, I do I do fry things quite a bit.
Yeah, we debated on calling this the Fry Channel. Terry's Fry House.
So I'm pretty used to frying things and not getting burnt, putting them in and not getting burnt. So we're going to try not to touch these as much as possible. We really want them to get a chance to cook all the way through, and then we'll flip them over and let them get nice and brown on the other side. Put them on the paper towels to drain, and then put them off to the side.
How long does it take to cook them?
Probably, I would say maybe 3 minutes per side.
And then the oil has to be at
350.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's pretty standard.
You want to keep, and just be aware that you can keep checking it if you're not comfortable with just looking at it and being able to tell. Like I said, I fry a lot, so I kind of know where it's at. Just be aware that your oil is going to drop in temperature when you add the cold foods to it.
Could you make this with the deep fryer? Or would it fall apart?
I think it would fall apart, because the whole thing is that you're making them into like patties. So unless you had a way of holding them together a little bit more, like maybe if you put more potato starch in them or something like that, you might be able to do them in the deep fryer if you did that. But they would definitely be sort of a different... we got stuck together. Get out of there.
At least they're not stuck to the bottom.
This is our first one, so let's go ahead and flip that. Ooh. And see. See, that could have gotten a little bit browner, but that's okay, because we can always flip it over again. I'm going to keep an eye on them, and one of the things you want to look for is, as you can kind of see, the potatoes are starting to change color around the outside, and I think that'll kind of tell you where you're at. I'm going to turn my heat up just a little bit, because I had actually turned it down, and I should have remembered to turn it back up. So this is our test batch. We'll see how that goes. And, as we go along, we learn, right? So now that I've turned it up, and once the heat starts going up a little bit more, we should get to a point where they are browning pretty well. See, that heat had dropped quite a bit, and so... yeah, we're going to want to let that go up. These might actually be a little bit on the oily side, because when the oil is not hot enough, the foods tend to absorb the oil more. So, but that's okay. Somebody in this house will eat them.
Kenzie will eat them. Kenzie likes the oil. She likes
anything fried, right?
Anything fried or bread or rice.
Move that over just a little bit. There we go. I like to play with my food. What can I say?
Well, it's kind of like just waiting for water to boil.
Right.
Waiting for latkes to fry.
Pretty much. And now when we're done with these, what I'm going to do is we'll show you how we would serve them. And typically they're served with applesauce and sour cream, or just applesauce or just sour cream. It all depends on what you like them with. I think people have even served them, non-traditionally with something like a cranberry sauce or a lingonberry sauce. You can do pretty much all kinds of stuff with it. So, we'll take a look at the bottom here. Trying not to touch them too much, letting them do their own thing here. And I would probably put a few more in the pan next time, now that I figured out what technique I want to use as far as forming them. Okay, and we're ready to turn these guys now. You can see how nice and brown they are. Oh wow, that looks great. I kind of feel like I need a smaller spatula here, or maybe even some tongs. I actually prefer using tongs for most things. I just find them a little bit easier to work with when you've got multiple things in a pan. You can just kind of reach under and grab it and flip it right over.
It's a little narrow for a spatula.
It is, well, especially that one, because that's specifically a cookie spatula type thing.
Well, and you don't want to touch the edges of this, because it's cast iron.
Right. Well, once they get kind of crisped up, it's easier to just turn them. So these guys are a little bit behind their brethren here, so we'll let that go for a moment. You can see how beautiful those look. Oh man, I'm really looking forward to trying these. I mean, you can't go wrong, crispy potatoes, right?
Yeah, pretty much. When did you first have a latke?
I think it was when I was a kid. You know, I grew up for a while in New York, and I remember going to a friend of mine's house, and it was Hanukkah, and I remember them like sharing the lighting of the menorah with me, and I'm pretty sure that her mom made latkes, and then later on when my stepbrother married a lady who was Israeli, I remember having them at their house as well. So
I think we had them at like another brother's house when they came as well.
I think so. I think she and the kids made them for us.
Because I remember we played with the dreidel and we had latkes
And Kenzie won all the gold coins.
So did they. I lost all the gold coins. I think that, it's a very interesting and rich culture.
It is.
It's very closely tied to people in New York, but then it also has this whole other culture in like Israel and things. It's really interesting.
It is. It's very interesting. One of the things that I found out about this, because, as you know, your grandfather found out that his grandfather was actually Ashkenazi Jewish, which means he was a Jew who was from Europe. And so one of the things that I thought was interesting when I looked that up was that originally latkes were probably made with cheese, like a ricotta cheese or something like that. And it's the Eastern European and European Jews who started using potatoes to make latkes because that was what was most commonly available in the areas that they lived in.
Yeah. Was that when they came to the U.S. or was that before?
No, that's over the centuries. When the potato came to Europe,
yeah.
But when people did start to eat it, they,
when they were
peasant
like
food, right?
When they
Peasant
were like,
food?
it's not poison.
Right. But peasant food, it was cheap, it was commonly available,
Where is the potato originally from?
the Americas.
Oh, it is? Is
Yeah.
it like Mexico?
Well, just the Americas in general. I think probably South America.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, they made a good choice. Because it's yummy.
People don't realize how many products actually come from the New World.
Well, yeah.
Or the Americas, yeah.
Are tomatoes?
Tomatoes are indigenous to the Americas. Potatoes.
Because they're all related,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Squash.
Maize. Corn. Yeah. We just so cool over here with all our original stuff.
Well, thanks to the original peoples, yes. If it wasn't for the First Nations people,
we wouldn't have a lot of that stuff.
we would not, no.
Because they kind of developed it. What's the word? When you breed different... Because they did that.
They did,
bred
yeah.
different
Yeah, they
kinds
would
of...
plant things that, just like any agricultural society does, they would plant things that made sense to them,
Yeah.
that if they liked them and things like
If
that.
you're the type of person that doesn't believe that these type of peoples are civilized, then you're kidding yourselves because they had a lot of advanced techniques and technology
Yep.
for what they were doing in
Exactly.
the time period.
But, just because they weren't European, and at that time, everything was all about, spreading different kinds of religion and dominating everybody else.
Well, that's what latkes are all about, too. It all kind of comes back full circle.
Right.
Because, latkes are from a people who, have been and still are being persecuted even now. Mm-hmm. And,
Yep.
I think there's a lot of anger and a lot of pain in food, but also
There
a lot
is.
of joy.
Well, and I think it can bring people together quite a bit. So, but we have to acknowledge where it comes from and how lucky
Exactly.
we are to live in a time that we live in and are able to enjoy all these different kinds of foods and culture and appreciate that.
Well, and
give credit where
Exactly.
credit is due.
Exactly. Because there's a huge issue with, like, Southern food and people giving credit.
Right,
And even Native American and Hispanic food.
right.
People love eating tacos, but they don't want to acknowledge where those tacos come from.
Exactly. Or the people who, make them or pick the food that goes in them, or whatever. So,
Exactly.
Okay, so that's our first batch all done. We're gonna let those drain, and when we then we're gonna eat some. And here we go. We got some beautiful latkes here. I'm going to serve mine with applesauce and a dollop of sour cream. You can serve yours with however you want, but I am really dying to try one of these. They are so crispy. I'm gonna put a little bit of applesauce on mine. Oh. I don't know if you can hear the crunch. That is super good. Wow. Potatoes. I'm going to finish this in a minute. I encourage you to try making these. They are very easy and very delicious. And why not make everybody's holidays part of your holiday celebration too? Let's honor each other. LLAP. Oh, and don't forget, my director's reminding me, don't forget, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see more content. We're going to be doing more exciting things coming up. And we're going to still do fried stuff, but maybe not for a couple weeks. Thanks, and have a great day.